Hey, what's going on, Renaissance Lifers? Welcome back to Renaissance Life TV. On today's show, we're talking about how to deal with rude comments from family members during the holidays. Alright guys, welcome back to Renaissance Life TV. If you're new here, Renaissance Life TV is a channel for personal growth and success with a different perspective on navigating life and relationships. If it's your first time here and you're not yet subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel for more great videos and topics like this on a weekly basis. I post videos every Tuesday afternoon at about 4:30 Eastern Time. Alright, so let's get right into it. It's the holiday season, guys, and it's the most wonderful time of the year, or so it should be. But for a lot of people, this time of year brings along with it a lot of angst, anxiety, and things that people are kind of worried about surrounding meeting with family members and sometimes even friends that you see on a yearly basis. So I wanted to kind of give you guys some tips on how to deal with rude comments in particular, or snide remarks, sarcastic remarks and things like that during the holiday season, so that way your holiday season does not get ruined. You may think that maybe the best way of dealing with rude comments is to just not respond at all. But you know, if you're like me and you've ever been in that sort of situation where you just chose not to respond, you likely found yourself, you know, on the drive home with your significant other, either talking about what happened because it's still really bothering you, or maybe a week later, you're still brooding about what was said at the event and the fact that you really didn't answer. So this really leaves a lot left to be said. And on the other hand, maybe you respond, but you respond in an explosive way that really ruins the atmosphere or the holiday for you and everyone else. And you really are just left with regret after what you said and don't feel that much better for saying what you actually said, and for maybe how other people saw or viewed you at the time. So I'm gonna give you some really great tips on how to deal with these situations, that you can deal with it in a gentle but assertive way. That way you feel like you've responded and you're not left with a bad taste in your mouth. So let me give you some examples of some of the things that you probably hear, or some variations of things that you might hear that would be rude comments during the holidays. So maybe people haven't seen you for a long time, and maybe there's that aunt that says that regular thing where it's like, oh wow, nice of you to show up. I haven't seen you in forever. You know, maybe that's the comment. Maybe the comment is, so when are you gonna get married? You still don't have a husband already? Or maybe you are married, or you have a boyfriend, and maybe the question is, when are you gonna have kids? You know, I'm not getting any younger here, so maybe that's something your grandmother says, or something that your mom's gonna say. Or maybe you have kids, and maybe the comment is gonna be, you know, if you announce that you're pregnant, they're gonna be like, again? You're really having another kid? So obviously you can't please everyone, and so there are always gonna be maybe rude comments, maybe about your family, your children, and how you do certain things. So here are some ways that you can respond. So one of the first tips that I have for responding to rude comments from family members is, number one, the biggest thing is to not engage. Now this may not sound like it makes sense at first, but just because you respond does not mean that you engage in the conversation or in the negativity or in the sarcasm, right? So sometimes you can respond to somebody and not stoop down to their level, not really actually give them what they're looking for. This is really more of an art than a science, so you can really get it and get it down pat with practice. So what this looks like is that you want to speak up without getting into the pettiness. Speak up without stooping down to their level. You want to maintain an air of positivity or an air of being on the higher road. So if they say something nasty to you, do whatever is possible to not go to the nasty place with them. Maybe you want to address them, but stay diplomatic, stay respectful. The other thing is that ultimately I want you to go in already geared up and having some answers, or the way that you want to answer in your mind when you're going to encounter this particular individual or anybody who might say something like that to you. So now let's get into some things that you can actually say in response to a rude comment or a backhanded remark. So maybe they come to the party and they say, wow, you look plump, or have you put on a few extra pounds? You know, backhanded remarks where it's like, oh, you look like you've been eating well this holiday season, right? How do you respond to something like that without letting it affect you, without you stooping down to their level? So one of my favorite tactics for responding to people if they give me a rude remark, whether it's family or friends or someone that I just meet, is being really extreme. When somebody asks me a question, like let's say I have 4 kids, I'm about to have a 5th kid, and the person says to me, well, how many kids are you gonna have anyway? Like, my goodness, you're having so many kids. My answer would probably be something like, actually, I plan to have 15 kids. You know, or I plan to have 10 kids, and I just go to the extreme, right? That just puts somebody in a position where they don't know whether you're sure, whether they don't know whether you're being serious or not. They really don't know what to do with that answer. They figure it's probably not true. You know, maybe they ask you another time and you say the same thing. I already told you, I'm gonna move to Africa and adopt 20 kids. You say something crazy and off the wall and you chuckle, you're smiling the whole time and you walk away. So one really great thing about that is that you're playing into their fears, right? And you maintain a positive attitude, you're having fun, you're messing with them, and that's the best thing. I love messing with people, in particular when they're being rude. It's one of the greatest things that you can do. I just love it. Another tactic that you can use, and this is one of the oldest tricks in the book, is to change the subject or redirect. That if somebody says something rude to you and be like, wow, you don't have any kids yet? I mean, you're not getting any younger. You know, your answer can quite literally be, I'm gonna change the subject. Let's talk about something else. That could literally be your answer. And they may say to you, well, why? Why don't you talk about it? You'd be like, let's just say it's best that I don't answer this question, all right? And you can say something like that. So when you're doing that, you're giving them a very clear impression that you're choosing not to engage in this, and that there's something about this question that you don't want to engage with. You're doing it in a diplomatic way, smiling and maintaining the high road. And so what's really important that you understand is that you are a human being and an autonomous being, which means you don't have to answer any question you don't want to answer. And so that's a really important point. You need to have the confidence, the assuredness to know that you can choose which questions you want to answer and which questions you don't want to answer. Whether it's family members, whether it's a cop, whether it's a judge, whatever the case might be, you have the choice whether you want to answer and how you can answer. You know, and sometimes I may change the subject and, you know, somebody says something rude and I'll be like, so, Tom, what were you saying about such and such? And quite literally just ignore them. Sometimes that's what you need to do, and they'll get that message. Maybe they repeat the question, and once again you'd be like, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something positive. And sometimes that's what you do. So you're putting them on the spot. You're saying that what they're talking about is not something you want to talk about. Or you say something and you walk away by changing the subject. Okay, now there are some other more direct ways of responding to a rude remark that somebody makes. So a lot of times I'll use several of these tactics in conjunction. I'll be extreme and silly and play to someone's fear. Like let's say you still don't have any kids yet? I'll be like, no, I actually plan to move to England and become a nun and have no kids ever, or become a eunuch. And they'll be like, what? I'm a guy, so obviously I can't become a nun. So they're like, they have no clue what to do with that. Maybe they keep prying and I'll be like, you know what? I'm not gonna talk about this, you know, let's talk about something else. So I change the subject. Maybe they pry again and then I'm required, or I feel that I want to give a more direct answer. So then you wanna craft an answer that is exactly what you wanna give. Or what I like to do is quite literally still not actually address their question, but more address their posture or position or what they're saying to me and how it's coming across. So what that might look like, and this may seem kind of snide or maybe rude in response, but it's really a tactic of getting them to either step back or understand that you're just not going to engage. If someone is saying something rude to me, or a rude comment or a backhanded comment, I may say to them, do you have anything positive to talk about this year? I'm ready. I'm happy to talk about anything positive. And they quite literally just asked you a question that was not positive, that was rude, or whatever the case might be. You haven't answered it, and you've asked them if they have anything positive. Feel free to share. Hey, what did you actually do this year? So you're changing the subject, you're letting them know indirectly that what they're asking is not positive, or you may say an indirect compliment to them about what they're saying that's rude. And an example of that would be like, I can always count on you to make me feel better. Or I can always count on you to say something positive around the holidays, right? So can you imagine the effect that that sort of a response has? But you maintain your position, you maintain your authority, you maintain your confidence, and you still letting them know that you're not addressing their question. You haven't even talked about an answer to the question that they've actually asked you. You're quite literally just addressing their posture and what they've said. So that's another really effective tactic of actually just calling out what they're doing or how they're acting or how they're talking in a very artistic, diplomatic way, and just putting it out there. You'd be like, well, you know what? If anybody wants to talk about anything positive, that's cool. Awkward. Whatever it is that is in your repertoire, and you want to build and develop some ways of counteracting and engaging with people when they're doing things like that, where you can still maintain your air of positivity and you feel like you've at least addressed the issue instead of leaving it unaddressed, where you feel like they were able to get over on you or say something that puts you in a posture where you felt bad or something like that. All right, so the next tip that I have for you guys is one where you can quite literally stop someone before they've actually made the rude comment or the snide or the backhanded remark. So maybe they start making their statement and they say the first couple words, and you can already sense and feel that this is not going in the right direction. You'll have that sense about what they're saying because you know this person's MO, and you already hear how it's starting and what they're talking about, and you can sense that it's going to be something negative. You can quite literally say, hold on, and stop them in their tracks. And they'll be like, what? And you can ask them, is what you're about to say going to be something positive? Is it going to be something that builds up? Or is it going to be something more likely that's going to lead us into gossip? Or is it going to be something that's not positive? Sometimes you want to say, is this going to be a rude statement? Because most people are not going to admit that, right? But if you ask them, is this going to be something positive? Then we'd be like, I'm just going to tell you how, blah, 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 blah. And you can still sense that they're going and be like, okay, I see. So it's not going to be something positive, so I don't want to talk about it, all right? If this is not going to be a positive conversation, I'm not going to be able to stay as part of the conversation. So you're letting them know that you want to be part of the conversation, but if this is going to go there, you just are going to have the inability to remain as part of the conversation. In other words, it's not your fault. You're not choosing to not be in the conversation, but that occurrence is going to cause you to not be able to be there. Essentially, you're taking it away where it's out of your hands and it's in their hands to determine whether or not you remain as part of the conversation. In that way, you protect yourself, you protect the environment, and you're able to stop them from going in the direction that they were going to go into in the first place. So that's a very creative method of being able to take control of the situation, be assertive, and that's something you really want to be able to do in these type of situations sometimes. Along those same lines, you really want to think about how to set boundaries. So one of those boundaries can be that, listen, if this is not going to be a positive conversation, then I'm not going to be able to stay as part of it. And I've had to use that with even close family members. People need to know what's acceptable to you. And that's the thing, right? Everything does not have to be acceptable to you. It's really important for each of us to determine what is acceptable to us, what behaviors, what sort of speech will you accept in your environment, right? What sort of speech are you going to allow to impact your psyche? If you're a pregnant woman and the comments are, wow, you look tired, you look beat, you can make the sort of comments and set the sort of boundaries where you can be like, wow, I knew I could count on you to help a pregnant woman feel better or feel great. So in that way, you're indirectly telling that person that you could count on them to say something that would not make a pregnant woman feel great. Man, I should take you to a pregnant woman's group, So those sorts of things are telling the person and diplomatically that what they're saying is not positive. And so for them, when they assess that and process that, they're talking to you in this situation, and you're saying that what they're saying would not be beneficial to someone like you in this situation. So that should cause them to stop and think about what they're saying. And maybe you walk away. Maybe you say, well, you know what, I'll see you later, right? So in that moment, you've addressed the situation and you let them know where you stand and what your position is. So hopefully those are some ideas. Those are some things that have really worked for me over the years, and how to address people and how to address family, particularly around the holidays when you're going to be meeting with so many people, personalities from all over the place, and people who've been saving some juicy questions that they want to spring on you at any moment, right? So I hope you don't get any of that this holiday season or at any holidays, but if you do, you'll be ready, you'll think of some answers, you'll know what that question is that you keep getting every year, and you'll kind of know how to address it, even in front of your family as a whole, in a playful way, in a funny way, in an extreme way, a silly way, or in an indirect way, or changing the subject, or whatever the case might be. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you found this helpful and you like this type of comment, please don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more great videos like this. And until next time, I'm wishing you health and happiness. Cheers.